Many altcoins have exploded over the last several weeks. We've seen Solana hit $64, Cardano over 40 cents. So many are asking the question, is this the start of the altcoin season? In this video, I want to show you why this is not the altcoin season that most are waiting for. However, there's still very good gains. But this Bitcoin chart is indicating that the massive altcoin season is still ahead of us and the biggest gains of them all are still to come. This is basically the precursor to the big explosive gains that we are yet to see in the market. So make sure you've hit the like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the information here on the channel. As we always do, presenting you the facts and the data, studying the past to forecast the future across crypto, Bitcoin, stock markets, and the biggest cycle, the biggest asset market in the world, real estate. So guys, we have Black Friday coming up as well. Quick mention about that. Link in the top of the video description right there. Subscribe to the email newsletter and you guys will get notified about that. More on that later. But let's kick it off with Bitcoin and where we sit in the bull market phase that we are currently in. So I've presented you several different strategies, several different theories here of the Bitcoin cycle. One of them in particular, I've broken down into two halves, right? The first 18 months and the second 18 months. And so this is all building towards understanding when the biggest altcoin season is going to hit. Of course, we're just studying the data, what we've seen in the past, just presenting you the facts, no emotions. We're not getting caught up in the hype of Solana or any other altcoin that's supposed to do a billion X. We just want to look at the pure raw facts. Okay, so in terms of the bull market, we are roughly about 33% complete. The reason why I say that is looking back on the last few cycles here, we can see that the market has a rough sort of 6-monthly movement to it. Now, if I break it down to make it even more simple, we've got around 18 months. So it's about 3 years up, broken into 1.5 year slots. You can see the first sort of 18 months is basically the accumulation and reaccumulation zone. Accumulation, reaccumulation, much bigger in last cycle, and the accumulation was much bigger in the first cycle here in 2015, and there was a cycle previous to that, but there wasn't as much data when we look back to 2011 to 2013, 14, but nonetheless, you can still see that we had a big move up in the first 18 months, then there was some more accumulation, and then the last move up as well. So not as much data. Bitcoin was basically just being birthed, and then it basically went on a run from fractions of a penny up to $1,100–$1,200. So let's pay attention to the last couple of cycles as we have a little more data that's probably going to be a bit more accurate and useful for us. So the first 18 months we had the halving around the period of the changeover from the 18 months to the second 18 months. The same sort of deal happened in 2020. We had the halving around this stage here, and then the market took off from that point. And we're anticipating that something similar is going to happen in this cycle as well. So you might be wondering, where does this 33% complete come from then? Well, if we break down the 3 years, we have roughly 12 monthly lots. So if we throw a 12 months bar across here, you can see that November 2022 was the cycle low. Many didn't expect it. We were talking about it many, many times here on the channel, especially as the market was breaking out, giving us more confirmation that the November low would be the cycle low. So we have a theory at the time that it could be, but we need more confirmation from the market as it starts to break out. But remember that people were calling for a mega bear market in March of 2023 when we had the banking crisis. That didn't happen. They were calling for more collapses for 3K, 10K, 5K, 12K Bitcoin throughout the entirety of 2023. But that hasn't happened, and we've broken out. And many of them are starting to shift, which is why we're seeing the market climbing faster than it has done over the last 6 to 7 months. Because you're seeing some of those bears capitulate and jump to the side of the bullish side of the market. And as the market continues on, we'll see more and more of that happen. We'll see more of the bears capitulate. They'll have to jump onto the bullish side, and that just spurs on the bull market. That's why it's the most difficult to think about it being a bull market at the bottom, the start of the bull market, the November low, because the majority is still thinking it's a bear market. But in fact, the timing started from November 2022. So that's why we're looking at the 12-month period there. You see November, we're now in that 12-month period. As I said, 3 years, a third of 3 years is 33%. So you can see what happened 12 months from the low last time. It was in the reaccumulation zone. 12 months from the next cycle, so you can see from 2018, 12 months in, it was in reaccumulation because this was the accumulation zone. And basically what we've just seen this time around is that the reaccumulation was a little earlier than that 12-month period. I see this as the accumulation, anything under 25,000, and then anything under the 32 and into the bracket of 25 as the reaccumulation. But don't worry, there's going to be another reaccumulation level. It's just at higher stepping stones, which also works into our Wyckoff schematic where when we enter phase E, that we start to see a stepping stone effect. The market keeps climbing up and more bases are formed and more reaccumulation happens. So make sure you stick around on the channel. I've got more of the Wyckoff series coming up as well. You'll probably be able to see some of those videos with this sort of thumbnail as well. So that's where we'll continue to update that. But moving forward now into the halving and the 50% levels. This is where things get really, really interesting because it basically indicates that the market is coming towards an end. And when I say end, I'm sort of looking at the second half. So we looked at those 18-month brackets, and then we're hitting that second half of the bull market. The bull market is from low to the high. That's the way I'm identifying it here and giving you that description because everyone has all sorts of different descriptions. We're starting to see some of the largest YouTube crypto channels now starting to come on board that this could be a bull market, whereas before they were calling all of this a bear market. So it just depends, I guess, on the description that you're choosing to use. But for our technical analysis, for our data, we use the exact points, not just a rough airy-fairy idea. Because basically when you start to break out of these resistance levels, then you're talking about a retail mania bull market where more people are into the market than there were before, and you have more people feeling more bullish, which works out for the media, especially if you're some of the biggest channels. They are more media-based channels as opposed to trading or investing. So they basically cater towards the masses because the masses are coming on board now and they're talking about the bull market. Just to get your understanding of how these things happen online because it can be very, very, very confusing. So looking at the halving and the 50% breakout, this is a key point here. The 50% breakout is when things start to get really, really wild. What the hell is a 50% breakout? Well, basically it's the entire bear market and you split that in half. Last cycle, call it $70,000 for a round number. Bottom, $15,000. You get a nice level through the middle there, roughly $42,000. When the market breaks out of that, a nice close, a monthly close above that level, you can see that things have gone wild. That is the first time it happened there. So October 2020 was last cycle. Cycle before that, we had the breakout in October again, 2016. This time we had a nice October 2023 breakout, and in October 2023 we had a shorter term but still very, very, very big 50% level at $32,000, which was the monthly lower swing top to the cycle low, which we've now broken. We've had one monthly close above that. I think we should close above 32 again, but of course the market will decide on that point. And basically now we're at the final 50% level. This is the bear market 50% level. I think this is what we're coming towards next, breaking above 42K. So when that happens, you can see here 50%, the market gets really crazy. That is crypto mania, Bitcoin mania, everything mania. Everyone thinks that this has a lot longer to go. But as you can see, because you've been here, hopefully, since mid-2022. Mid-2022 was basically the June bar here, which has now been overcome. So everyone from June of 2022 is now, or should be, above water rather than underneath water. And all of that period in between, basically this was the most difficult period. And I think the most difficult period is now behind us, which is now leading towards that crypto mania. And I want to show you the returns in something like ETH and Solana and Cardano as an example of the bigger returns are still ahead of us, even if we feel FOMO that we've missed out on the last couple of weeks of upside. This last couple of weeks, at least from the way I trade the markets, is the confirmation that we've been waiting for the market to give us that indication that the bull market is on and we don't have much longer to wait. You play it whichever way you want, but of course I'm a little bit less risk adverse when it comes to these cryptocurrencies, because we know from history that the majority of them will continue to go down. And we don't want to be in those cryptos that continue to go down. And one of those fools that said, I bought early, and they're the ones that are buying each of the dips on the way down to the low. They have no idea about their average cost in, but that's a really good lesson for anyone getting into the market. Understand your average price into the market so that you know how much gain you're making to the upside. Anyway, the halving, the 50% breakout, last cycle again, halving, 50% breakout. 50% breakout happened on October 2016. The halving was on the 50% level. It was very close to the 50% level here in 2020, and it touched the 50% level before the halving. It also touched the 50% level before the halving. And I think this time round, the halving's coming up in around April. I think we're going to at least touch the 50% level before the halving. So I think we'll get to $42,000 before the halving. Whether we close above it, different story, but I think that's going to happen maybe sometime in this period between April and September. So basically your quarter 2, quarter 3 of 2024. Okay, so that's what we're looking at moving backwards. And this is a really, really challenging, difficult period because of the move to the upside, the corrections, and then the breakout. So the next thing to know, because it's going to affect our emotions, is how long from the touch of the 50%, because that's basically a really key trigger in the market. Once it breaks that, it's on, right? So it's touched it first. People think it's on, but then it pulls back. So this is like the psychology going on in the game. 1, 2, 3 months. On the 4th month, it breaks out, but it's still in that zone. It's still in the price range of the first month that touched it 5 months later. And then on that 6th month, then it really gets going, but you get that signal earlier on. So call it between 4 and 6 months within that touch to a breakout of that zone. Now, this time around last cycle, 2019, 2020, you had the touch really early on and then it stayed in that zone for ages. So what I'm going to measure from is roughly around the halving, because you can see the halving also touched at this point here. So here is the halving in May, and then the breakout happened 5 months later. So it stayed within this price zone for another 5 or so months. And on that 5th month, it really started to break out. So you've got this sort of, go the earlier period, say 3 to 6 month lag from the touch of the 50% or the halving to the really firm breakout. So I want to err on the side of caution and give us that shorter period of time, because maybe this time around it's going to break out sooner. Maybe it touches this month or December, holds off for a few months to the halving, and then basically breaks out on the halving month or the month after. Whereas in the past, we can see it's taken about 2 to 3 months to break out of the 50% after the halving. And then here was roughly 4 to 5 months that it actually broke out. So just err on the side of caution, because things are looking a little bit quicker this time. And maybe we hold out above those levels towards the quarter 2, quarter 3 of 2024. So now we've got some monthly time periods in mind. That helps us figure out the crypto mania and things taking off. So we've got a really good example or understanding of this here, October 2020, breakout month. October 2016, breakout month. It's on. There's almost no concerns whatsoever, because you can just see the market went straight up. There was almost no pullbacks that entire period. 2021, we had the pullback, and then that was it to the final peak. So we have some cycles to look at here, and the biggest returns are still ahead of us. So October 2020 on the total cryptocurrency market cap, excluding Bitcoin and ETH, because remember, we're looking at altcoins here, the degen stuff, the stuff that's going to go bananas in that very select period for that very select period of time. We're looking at it here, October 2020, and then the nuts game, the breakout point. The narrative's popping off. It's whatever it is first, DeFi and whatever, NFTs, then it turned over to gaming and metaverse and NFTs, and it was layer 2, then it was layer 2 again. It was just, everything had this potential that it was just going to take crypto to the next biggest bull run, and you have to hold it forever because this time is different. Don't be that stupid. This time is never different in that regard when it comes to holding something forever, okay? All right, moving back on from my rant, looking at the breakout point here, October, okay? So I probably mentioned in the title that this signal has called it early. If you held it or you just bought into your favorite altcoin in October, you're basically above all those areas of resistance. That's confirmation. No, you didn't get the bottom. No, you didn't get the cycle low. Okay, that's okay. Remember, the aim of the game is to take a chunk of profits out of the middle. We don't have to buy the low and don't have to sell everything at the top. You can sell it on the way up, however you choose, okay? Buy everything October, right? A race to the top. You're holding for 12 months. October is there, that's 12 months. You'd be getting 1,000% return. The peak from October bottom to that top is about almost 1,200% return. So about a 13x or so. Now, if you look at it from the low to that point in October to give us the confirmation that this is the time that the market is. So this is really, really breaking it down to something super simple. I hope we can see that. Then to that point there, you got a 200% return. Okay, some will say, well, if I got the bottom, the returns go up astronomically. Yes, you'd be right. You'd have 4,000% instead of 1,200%. But at the end of the day, no one is picking up that exact low. No one's picking and selling the exact top. Some are going to get in earlier. But remember, those people who are getting earlier are probably getting in earlier on a ton of cryptos. And then on 9 out of 10 of them, those ones continue down, or they just don't have a big of a rise as some of the others that have confirmed the breakout. So they'll tell you that they got in on this one that worked out at 1 out of 10 that worked, and it went up 1,000, 2,000, 20,000%. But at the end of the day, you have no idea how many others they've lost on, and I gather that they have no idea either because they're throwing the money here, there, and everywhere. So basically, it's that mental game. Don't worry about what the others are talking about. Just do your thing and just look at the raw, hard facts and data. Set up a very simple plan that you can execute so that you can make the gains. Because at the end of the day, if it's too complicated, it's never going to work, and you're going to let all the gains basically slide back down, just as all of the Cardano holders did, as the Solana holders did, as everyone else, the Matic and so on. You name it, every other altcoin they had to lose because 90%, 95% of people end up losing in the market. All right, so that's a look at the last cycle. You can see that the biggest gains are still ahead of us, and I've talked about why I think we're in this period in the market now. I'll continue to update that, otherwise the videos are too long, so make sure you do subscribe on the channel. But we've got some more examples to have a look at. So Ethereum, we have 2 cycles to look at here. ETH from last cycle, October 2020, we had a 1,300% rise. If we look at where it was from the low to that high point, or either low, it doesn't matter, it's going to be roughly the same, 300, 277% to that October period, that breakout. There's a very defined, clear line saying Bitcoin, halving, 50% hit, breakout. Very clear rules here. Then what we've seen in the past, this sort of thing happens, okay? So that's what it showed on Total 3. Ethereum, same sort of deal. You can see the biggest gains were ahead of Ethereum from that point of the confirmation using the TA. Now on Ethereum, we have a previous cycle as well, which we don't have for Total 3. Total 3 didn't have any data here, or at least I don't have it on this chart, going back to the previous cycle. So Ethereum, same sort of deal. We know October 16, as we just talked about. What do those show up as? Well, the first move to that low point, 2,200%. Where's my other one? Here it is, 14,000%. So all I'm doing here is this number is smaller than this number here. This is the confirmation. You had a pullback. And if you could get even more on this pullback here, which was roughly a 40 or 50 odd percent pullback, then that gain is going to be even bigger. And for the shits and giggles, that's 23,000%, 17,000%, or 14,000%. You can see the numbers get astronomical and pretty ridiculous. Now, if that wasn't enough, I've got you covered. Let's have a look at Solana and ADA. They're the 2 previous cycles, and I've got no more data to go back on the previous one into 2013 because basically all those coins are gone now. You had Doge that came out sort of late 2013, 2014, XRP, but the real stuff that went up in the pump of 2013 is gone. I don't even know the coins. You don't know the coins. There were things like Namecoin or Feathercoin or these other stupid things. No one knows about them anymore, which is probably why the majority of these cryptos, which everyone thinks are going to make it, are just not going to make it. The 2017 stuff, you guys probably never even heard about and don't even care. It's half the shit in here. And the same sort of deal is going to happen for 2021. I'd say things like VET and Zilliqa and this stuff, no one cares about anymore. And they're just basically going to die off. They'll have their pumps, but there's going to be better coins out there. Solana, here it is, October 2020 as an example, to the upside. I think you can pretty much guess it now. Upside there, 20,000%. If you bought it right at the bottom here to this point, that's about 500%. So beautiful gains either way. And if you got in at the bottom, congratulations. But all I'm saying is it looks like we have the bigger runs ahead of us just based on the Bitcoin chart itself, just looking at the halving and the breakout and the stages of the bull market that we are currently in. We're looking at these 18-month periods. The first half being where the majority aren't thinking the market's bullish, and then that second half where the mania kicks in. So I think we're roughly about this 33% away. Now the last one is Cardano, and you can see the deal here, October 2020 to the top, 3,400%. From this bottom here in March 2020, you got around 400%. So this is the confirmation that the market's ready to break out. Yes, some people were buying it at 2 or 3 cents, but there was still no confirmation that this one was going to make it to that upside. Some would say, well, you should have done your fundamentals. Sure, do fundamentals on a million other cryptocurrencies, pick the one that might make it, and maybe you get there in the end. But at the end of the day, charting, I find, is just much, much easier. So if you want to learn more about this, link in the top of the video description. Black Friday special is coming up. You can get more on those strategies there as well. And of course, our free weekly newsletter report on the cryptocurrencies and the macroeconomics out there. All right, guys, more on this in future videos. So make sure you are subscribed. Videos are popping up here on your left-hand side. And thanks once again to all the folks that turned out in Melbourne on the weekend to come and say hello and listen to Michael and I talk for a little bit longer. See you at the next video. Until then, take care and peace out.